Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
Located on Lake Pontchartrain, Brisbee's Lakefront Restaurant and Bar offers traditional West End favorites, a scenic view, oysters, and numerous tasty options. More information is available at 504-304-4125 or brisbeesrestaurant.com. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile. Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we're going to talk a lot about the LSU Tigers and the College World Series. It's draft night for the New Orleans Pelicans. We'll talk about the Pels. Saints have just concluded their mini camp. They're in a little bit of break before they go to training camp, and we'll touch on the Saints as well. Great guest for you tonight. Gus Kattengell of ESPN 100.3 here in New Orleans, and Rene Nadeau, who is a college football analyst and also works for CBS Sports, covers the New Orleans Saints for them. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. Always like to let the audience know a little bit about what you guys are involved in, more than I just said. Gus, you got a lot going on between your show, Tulane, everything else. Tell the folks about it.
Yeah, no problem. I'm on every single day, 12 to 3 on weekdays on ESPN 100.3. And as you said, it's been no shortage of topics to get into just now. A little bit of a lull when it comes to the Saints, but as a matter of fact, 5 weeks from today, we would be talking about the first practice on July 27th. It's 5 Thursdays from today. They report the 26th, so there's a slight lull, but still a lot of storylines going into it. And you mentioned the Pelicans, and that's something that we're going to be getting into a lot because that's a ton to get into and talk to. Because before you know it, it will be the NBA season. All the moves they're going to make over the next 2 weeks are going to be big. So there's really there might be like a day off or two that where you have a little fun, but for the most part, it's always busy.
It's good having multiple pro teams here in the city, and of course with football it's year round, especially when you're doing a sports radio show.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And obviously with college football season, it's anticipated, I think, in a lot of different areas.
Right. I used to listen to Rene Nadeau when he hosted his own sports radio show back in the day. I was in tune every single day. I used to.
You would have got listening.
Yeah, I was that. A bunch of us over the office had you on every day. Tell the folks about a little bit what you're involved in.
Well, college football analysts have been doing that for a long time for ESPN and some other networks, and worked for CBS Radio and WFAN for Saints and Pelicans and things like that. But the thing with football season, as you both know, it's not a season. It just goes into different phases. College goes in recruiting, signing day, spring practice, the draft with the NFL and stuff. So it's just different phases. So it's just, you don't see games on TV. As you know, there's a lot going on. But very blessed, and I keep my hand with recruiting pretty closely.
Yeah, you do a great job with that.
Stay very close to that, and it's always a lot of fun.
There you go, guys. Let's get it started. When you look at the Tigers right now, obviously they're undefeated against the Florida State Seminoles. 0-1 against Oregon State. They were in an elimination game 2 o'clock on Friday. Lang looks like he's going to be the pitcher against Oregon State. But you got to give a lot of credit to Jared Poche, who again now is the all-time winningest pitcher in LSU history. A guy that was trying to get that done at the box. Right. Looked like there was a lot of pressure on him, or that he put on himself to get that done. Boy, he really came through for this team when they needed him. Came through in middle relief against Florida State and pitched brilliantly. And then yesterday, when you look at what he did against Florida State, almost 9 1/3 innings, really pitched well. And of course, one of the reasons why the Tigers now have a second shot at Oregon State.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I think one of the things, Eric, that you look at right now, there's a lot of steps to be played if LSU is to come back to Baton Rouge with a national championship and add to that intimidator. But right now, if that happens, how do you not give the MVP to Jared Poche? As you mentioned, he comes in and does what he does in relief and keeps at bay, really, Florida State going there. And to do what he did on Wednesday, it's, I don't know, think of, an adjective or a way to even describe it. Phenomenal, magnificent, great, studly, you name it. Saved the season, obviously not only for the win, but the way he went about it as well. 8 innings, you saved the bullpen because I guess your best case scenario is maybe Alex Lane can get out that first or second inning. He really is like a lot of those top pitchers in Major League Baseball that you've seen through history, even Clemens too. If you get to him, it's when? At the very beginning, right? Normally the power pitchers and stuff, they settle down after an inning or two. Maybe they're too amped up and too jacked, which is maybe what Alex's issue is. But if he can maybe come through and give you 7, 8 innings, since we've seen him go deep into games. We go back to that Mississippi State game where it was tight and close, and you're wondering, does he have enough? He looked like he lost the strike zone, gets to strike out with the bases loaded. If you can get another 7, 8 inning performance out of him, Hess comes in, shuts that down, well, then I give them a shot, because the other thing that stood out, not only with that performance by Poche, Oregon State's one heck of a baseball team, and you're asking to do a lot in trying to beat a team that's lost 4 times, twice in back-to-back days.
Rene, you talk a little bit about Poche, what he's been able to do, and of course, this Tiger team now, their backs against the wall, but they seem to be a pretty loose team right now.
The thing is, and Gus kind of touched on it, but Jared Poche is not a strikeout guy. He's not a power pitcher, and he's not known for strikeout. He's not the main guy. Lang is, and Eric Walker has done a great job. Losing Eric Walker, and for this team to pick up at the last minute when they lost their services, that is really, really tough. They did a great job in Maneri managing this whole thing. But you hear so much about Kramer Robertson and Cole Freeman, are the seniors on his team, and rightfully so. But you got guys like Antoine Duplantis, who's silently been a fantastic player, second on the team in hitting last year as a freshman, leads the team in hitting this year as a sophomore. And I can see this guy as a junior next year being a high draft choice and being in the consideration for Golden Spikes Award. You got Watson in center field as a freshman. You got Josh Smith at third base. Watson, third in triples, home run hitter. Josh Smith rarely strikes out, walks a lot, very patient guy. And Papirski is a guy who's really hadn't played much. Last year he backed up Jordan Romero in catcher, and he stepped up. So he's really kind of a freshman. It would be great if he came back. But you've had guys who step up. Zach Hess has been really, really valuable in what he did. Last night he shut him down, and he's a power pitcher. But you got guys that have really stepped up, understood their role, jumped on like the freshmen when the train is moving, and fit right in. Smith and Watson, they've fit right in, and have carried their own weight, and have helped the team in a lot of ways, both of them hitting around 300 above. So credit Maneri and credit the maturity of this team to take on the responsibility and keep going, and to get new guys just to blend in. It's not an easy scenario.
Well, I certainly agree with you with credit Maneri. Took a lot of flack from LSU fans losing midweek games to state schools. South Alabama loss. And of course, one of the things he mentioned was, and I love the quote, where he talks about the conversation he had with Skip Burtman, where Skip said, don't be afraid to experiment in the midweek games. And it's paying off now. Guys have had an opportunity to be on the mound. Guys have had an opportunity to be able to play. And again, the stage is not too big for them. Now, again, even with the situation with Oregon State, maybe there's a silver lining to what happened to that blowout loss. A lot of those guys had a chance to be able to play in a College World Series. So now they got a little experience there. Maybe the butterflies are not there. So got to give a lot of credit to Maneri.
It's interesting. You brought up earlier when we started this segment about the pressure that you sort of felt. I mean, they breezed through from that Alabama series and playing tremendous baseball through the SEC tournament, which is no easy feat. I mean, we've seen 3 of those teams made it to the College World Series. And then you get to regional action, and there was adversity. They struggled in the first 2 games. They won 2 in a row, but you saw them on that Friday, Saturday, the 2 big starters in Lang and Poche got roughed up, touched up. Same thing with the Super Regional. They had to bounce back and then fight through a rain delay to get all that. So I kept saying when those things are happening, I think it's going to help when you get to them all. It's going to happen. Other teams are going to have runs. And more importantly, as I try to express to LSU fans, this isn't Burtman-era college baseball. There are so many good programs out there now and good teams. My goodness, LSU eliminates a guy that's run Florida State out there 18 times, he can't win a national championship. I feel for the guy. Sure. I mean, seriously, he's almost at 2,000 wins, and he can't win a title. It's not easy. You look at Oregon State, I'm like, who wants to go play baseball up there? It's probably cold half the time. They've won back-to-back national championships. They got a guy playing with the Mets, that just played. I mean, there are a lot of good programs. Oh, by the way, we're not even talking about the Florida Gators that are on the other side of the bracket that are doing it. So it's not easy, and I think it's adversity, it's timely hitting, it's guys that step up, you name it. Freshmen have to step up. Seniors that haven't had that opportunity have to step up. And then you do have to have the guys that are on the media cover, that I always call it, the media guys. They have to step up as well, and that's where you're hoping that a Robertson gets going, a Dykeman. He did have a game-winning hit here in this college, but they're on the media guide for a reason. Yeah. So you got to have it all work at once. You got to have luck.
And guys, there's been some criticism that LSU maybe had an easier road through their regional and of course the super regional. But when you look at the matchup now, how they were set up being 4, having a matchup against 1, there's no easy road for them when it gets to the College World Series. When you got to go through Oregon State to be able to get to the championship series, that's not an easy road.
No one snuck into the World Series.
Agreed.
You got 8 teams that are there. They are all very, very good. And any one of those 8 teams could win it. And, and again, I get back, you talk about adversity, overcoming adversity. Andy Cannizaro leaving. That was a lot bigger than people think because the players and the coaches, especially hitting instructor, is very close. Had a close bond. And that was very tough to have him go. And again, the train keeps moving, and they just plug in holes and they fill gaps and stuff like that. And I overlooked another guy that had a big game yesterday, Jake Slaughter. Yeah. You guys know you've both been in the media a long time. When the lights come on, the microphone's on, buddy, you better do and say what you're supposed to do. Yes. And Jake Slaughter and Coombs were splitting time at first base. Slaughter comes in. When the lights are on, that's when he performed and came through. And you got to have those kind of players that want to come on, and when the pressure's on, they want it. Right. And that's the kind of guys they have. But again, with Cannizaro gone and Micah Gibbs and these guys have stepped up and really done a great job just keeping the ball rolling and things. And in some ways, the hitting has gotten a little bit better. So,
it'll be interesting to see. You mentioned 7-8 innings on a Lang. It's almost a must when you talk about this game against Oregon State because, again, when you look at this now, if you're able to get past Oregon State on Friday, well, then you got to beat them again, and then you got a 3-game series. Right. So you're going to be using a lot of arms, and again, that was why it was a blessing to see Poche go as far as he did last night.
That's what I'm saying. That performance was, if we get to talking about a special. Because it will be, let's be honest. As you mentioned, Ernie, because the Gators look pretty good on the other side. Whoever comes out of the other side is going to be good. And then you got to start all over again. It's a 2 out of 3, and then it's, whoever plays the best. But I'll tell you, if they can pull this off and beat the #1 team in the country that's lost 4 times all season, I don't want to hear it's not the SEC. I don't want to hear it's not. Stop it. I mean, they have 3 pitchers out of 5 that don't have a loss on that team of any kind. So.
Well, you lost to their 4th best pitcher, right?
Yeah, he looked dominant. I mean, I remember hearing Zach Watson after the game saying he didn't throw the same pitch to any hitter or to you during your at bat. That's preparation, and the coaching is solid. When you get to Omaha now as well. So, again, though, it's. I'm trying to think that maybe there was one during Gorilla Ball era, something like that, where one of the LSU national championships were a breeze or were easy, or they were, one of the Bertman teams, they were just hitting the ball all over the place, and you knew it, right? I mean, you knew it. But for the most part, it's always the ones that come back and do something miraculous. Some of those World Series came at the last at-bat, last inning, stealing home late. I mean, there's so many different things that weren't easy. And it has a makeup of it. Now can they go out there and do it? Because if they do, we'll be talking about this team in this World Series run and championship if they win it, and compare them and stack them to anybody that they've won before if they do it. Because what they'll have to do, you got to win 5 more.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying about the arms.
Yeah, and and the thing is something that you talked about the West Coast, and I can't tell you what Southern Cal, UCLA, Arizona State, and California did this year, teams. But that's all in the same conference. So they played these teams. And if they lost 4 games, I'd have to think USC, Arizona, one of those teams that have pretty good teams,
yes.
and they only lost 4 games in that. And I don't know if they lost to a conference pro.
Think about it. We talk about it all the time, midweek games.
Yeah.
4 games.
Right.
4. I don't want to hear it. I don't care who you play. They played their South Alabamas. They played their ULs, and they lost 4 times.
And you're going to have to do this without Eric Walker.
Yes.
And that was somebody they counted on.
Yeah.
And now he's out of the equation. Someone else, Caleb Gilbert, or someone else is going to have to step it up. And so, again, it's
going to be interesting. Let's talk about that because I want to get back to, again, some of the problems they had the first time around with Oregon State and how they have to correct that. But that's a key, isn't it? I mean, Caleb Gilbert now, from a middle relief now, possibly going into a starting role, maybe a year before you really wanted him, because you figure next year he's moving into that role for the Tigers. But this is going to be big for him because, again, you're going to hope that he's going to be able to do extended innings for this team going forward if he is the starter on Saturday, if they can take Oregon State on Friday.
just a sophomore, and he's a guy they were watching very closely, monitoring very closely this year. And Caleb Gilbert wasn't a guy they really counted on. They hoped he can come around, but now he has to do it. And again, that's pressure on a young man that we can't hope you can do it. We need you to do it. And as y'all said a second ago, Lang has to go 7 innings because you got to eat up as many innings, productive innings as you can, with quality, because the arms are not going to be rare. You don't want to be going in and getting a guy that you feel, we don't know if you can pitch in this kind of situation. Sure. You don't want to go with that. 2
things will help what Rene just said. Play good defense, which is something that this team hasn't done up until Wednesday when they took on Florida State, and get ahead. I mean, come on, how many LSU fans are going, finally, when they got a lead? Because it'd been like that regional,
took a lot of pressure
super
off
regional. Absolutely. Poche had a lead going into the second. I mean, so that will help Lang. That will help Gilbert. That will help whoever it is that you throw out there. And I think you actually saw, and again, I love reading Twitter during games, right? LSU fans, they're all coaches. They're like, finally, Pulmonary's playing small ball, bunting runners across. I think that's what you have to do against Oregon State. Put the onus on them. I know they're fundamentally sound. I know. But put the pressure on them. They're expected to go out there and win. Make them field. Make them play fundamental baseball. Have them maybe face some adversity. I think you have to, because I think if you go up there trying to hit balls out the ballpark and just take these, I mean, that pitching staff's just too good. So do something out the ordinary.
Well, they got to get something out of the top of the order, because that sets the table for really the Tigers, and that's been their struggle. I mean, not really getting anything from the top of the order.
Kramer Robertson got a sarcastic standing ovation yesterday when he got on base. And you're right, he sets the tone. You need him to get on base. He's a senior leader and he's the hitter and stuff, and so you need him to get on base. And if he's not productive, somebody else has to pick it up. And they just lose something when he's just not as effective as he should be or has been. So that's going to be a big thing. No errors. He had a couple of errors before against Oregon State. So you're going to have to play pretty solid ball against them. Clean and take some chances. Some hit and run and things like I said. And you're going to have to do, you get guys on base, double steal, something that's a little bit creative.
Well, you almost got to play Oregon State's game. Okay? I mean, again, and they can do that. They can play that type of game. But one thing that really hurt them against Oregon State was, and I think they were pressing a bit, the uncharacteristic fielding errors. Again, they said they weren't disciplined at the plate. They said they didn't follow the game plan. Again, you look at the base running errors that they had. That you're not going to win a national championship doing that. You're not going to beat the #1 team in the nation doing that as well. They got to clean those things up for tomorrow afternoon against Oregon State.
It's the atmosphere. I mean, look, it's so easy for us to sit there and say that. And, I try to think of how many places. I was chuckling last night, when they're ending the game and they're showing the head coach there, Martin, for Florida State. And I'm like, do you think a head coach would have lasted here? No. 22 years and not a single. We're not talking going back to Omaha. He hadn't won one. And here, it's expected to go to Omaha, to where you better have a solid performance. I threw the question out on my show earlier this week. What would you consider a successful season? Is it getting to this weekend, the final 4 teams essentially, or is it you're not satisfied and you want to fire them in area unless they, win the whole thing, because it's not easy. And I don't know. It's just it's nuts when you think of how difficult it is and what you have to go through, and get away from injuries and make sure that everything happens according to plan. And it's crazy to think how many programs get there, don't get it done, and some programs the first 2 times to get there and do it. It all has to fall into place.
And you know, Rene, I had our colleague Tommy Chryston from Pelican Broadcast on my radio show today, and he mentioned something that, again, goes back to his days when he was playing at Southeastern, 1 game at a time. Yeah. You can't look past to Saturday.
No.
Everything is tomorrow or Friday at 2 o'clock.
You got to play to win, and you're right. And don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry beyond tomorrow. Just play the best you can, 1 inning at a time, 1 inning at a time, 1 game at a time, and and that's what it is. You play 1 inning at a time, and just again, you keep your errors down, patience. Hopefully you can run up to pitch count on opponents and things like that. It's just little things that have to come into play. If you got your opponent 25, 30 pitches in the first inning, that's going to change the complexion of the game a little bit. So little things like that, they have to be smart.
Right. Guys, call me a homer. I got a good feeling about Friday against Oregon State with Lang on the mound.
Again, at some point, he's going to be that dominant guy the Cubs took 30th overall in the first round. And not that he hadn't been dominant, but he hasn't had his best stuff. And I'm talking from start to finish. Now, I get it. Not everyone gets that. And I think there's a lot to be said when he does battle and gets there. I just think to him it's the start. And there's ways to help it, like we said. If they're the visiting team, you know what? Get a run or so, and it will help them. If you're the home team, then you got to make sure you get out of that inning, unscathed, and you don't have it. The other thing, guys, that really hurt them is walks. He's got to locate that. It's almost like you want him to run some laps before he gets to that first inning because he's so amped up. He's strong. He's going to last 7, 8 innings if you can give him there. You've seen that pitch count be able to get there, and he can still locate the power when he needs to. Again, I go back to that Mississippi State game. It felt like that arm was rubber because he could not locate it, and all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom.
He did battle.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So you got to give him a little help, and I think that's where it comes from. But I'm with you. Look, this is his moment. This is what he's wanted, right? All you heard was he wanted to be that first-round draft pick. He got that. Now it's time to show it, to go out there and prove it. There's no bigger stage. You're going up against the #1 team in the country. Your your pitching mate, Jared Poche, he showed he can do it. It wasn't Oregon State, but you showed that you can have a dominant performance. Go out there and do that, and then see if the rest of the team can pick you up.
I'm not sure if they can beat Oregon State twice. I feel good about Friday. What are your thoughts?
I think they can beat Oregon State on Friday. But the thing also, besides the pitching, to piggyback what Gus just said, something's going to have to happen, like against Florida State. Jake Slaughter hits a 3-run homer,
right.
wins the game.
Yeah.
You got to have somebody like a Papirski, a guy you're not expecting to come up with a big hit. Zach Watson, Slider Bill, one of the top triples hitters on the team and home run hitters. You got to have a Jake Slaughter come up and not expect, just get a single or a fly out or something and move somebody around. 3-run homer, unexpected, which may have won the game.
Yeah.
So that's what you got to get. You got to get the unexpected. A little luck with that.
Yes.
But these players have to be ready, and 1 to 9 has to play their best game, and you got to have a little luck.
You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports each and every Thursday night right here on WLAE with our live broadcast on Friday nights at 10 p.m. on WLAE and also on Pelican Sports Television. That is statewide. That is 9 o'clock on Friday nights. We're on the Cox Cable tier. You can catch us on Thursday nights at 10 o'clock and on Saturday mornings at 2 a.m. if you're up at that time. Our guest tonight, Gus Kattengell of ESPN here in New Orleans, and also Rene Nadeau of CBS Radio. We'll be right back after these messages.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Amco Fence, locally owned and operated since 1976. Fully licensed and insured and a member of the BBB, Amco serves both residential and commercial customers. If you're looking to repair, replace, or install a fence for security or aesthetic reasons, Amco Fence supplies wooden, metal, chain link, vinyl, and ornamental or automatic gates. Amco aims to satisfy your fencing needs. Amco Fence, 504-468-9559 or AmcoFenceCompany.com.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Our guests tonight, Rene Nadeau and Gus Kattengell. Guys, the Saints minicamp is over, OTAs are over. You get a little bit of a lull where, again, you're hoping the players are staying in shape. You hope they're staying in their playbook, especially the newer players are in their playbook. For some of the veterans, it's a chance for them to get away with their families, get away from football, because it's going to be a grind once you start training camp in July. But, gosh, I talked about this on my show today. Teron Armstead, labrum injury, probably out for the season. Unknown Nick Fairley, whether he's going to be able to come back or not. Possibly he may never play football again. Max Unger, foot injury, expected to come back week 1, but that means no training camp, has had no mini camp, hasn't participated in the OTAs, and you're hoping he's going to be able to come back and just fit right in like a glove. And then you got Donnell Ellerbe, who's been often injured now with the ankle. Arguably 4 of the top 10 players on this team are injured. At least 2 of them will probably not play this season. It was looking that way. The other 2, Unger and Ellerbe, should play. And you hope they're going to be back. But, guys, when you look at just the 4 of the top 10 players on this team not being available, it's not a good way to start a season. I don't want to be pessimistic, but those are the guys that you really need to be available.
Last time I was here, I remember looking at you and said, and looked at Larry to my left, I said, I can't ever remember or recall a time where in your division alone, you are facing a team that has represented the conference in the Super Bowl in back-to-back years and also has the NFL MVP. We're not talking about the NFC MVP. The overall MVP, Cam Newton and the Panthers, Falcons with Matt Ryan. That's unbelievable when you think about it. And everyone, click it, wherever you want to look at online, is telling you the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be a solid team. They made some nice draft picks. For years now, they've been building on a defensive end to try to go get Drew Brees. Their linebackers are some solid studs, a former LSU guy. I know, sorry. Tiger fans don't want to hear that the Falcons also are doing that as well. They're not going to be pushovers and easy. Eric, we talk about this all the time. So, Rene, you know this. The easiest path to the postseason is to win your division. To win your division in the NFC South is not going to be easy. And we're talking about, as I mentioned, 2 NFL MVPs that are quarterbacks. Well, you just mentioned 2 players on the defense, one in particular D-line, and Fairley, which, again, if you judge by the signing right at the end of minicamp there at defensive tackle, and you see just the formations that you saw, 2 safeties on the line, linebackers on the line. They were absolutely practicing as if Nick Fairley wasn't going to be there, which was the right thing to do. But it's still a loss. Nick Underhill of the Advocate, it's the stat that stays in my head. 1 out of every 9 snaps last year, Nick Fairley was responsible for some sort of pressure on the quarterback, directly or indirectly, taking up a blocker, letting somebody in. That's a really good stat. That's a big loss. And you mentioned Teron Armstead. Look, he missed 9 games last year. Silver lining, if there's a team that can play without its offensive line being healthy and still have 5,000 yards, is this one. But you want a guy that you've paid a big deal to for the future to start playing football, and you feel for the guy. I mean, he got hurt in a drill on Wednesday of minicamp, a day before it ends. He gets injured. He was looking to be healthy. It just stinks because you don't have as good offensive lines, I think, as you were going to have if everyone was healthy.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And that's tough. That's a tough start for a team that's ready to take the next step. 4 of your top 10 that are injured now on June 22nd, and maybe 2 of those guys not able to return this season.
And something that Gus said a second ago, in the NFC South, Cam Newton, Matt Ryan, Jameis Winston. I mean, that's 3 of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And not only that, injuries that they already have, but look back to last year when Jarvis Burr was being counted on. I know he's gone now, but there were so many injuries. Delvin Breaux went 100%, and it was a revolving door situation on the defensive backfield. Kihaha went down. It's just, you got to have a little luck with you. P.J. Williams and guys now are healthy. Delvin Breaux's healthy. Von Bell's a year older. Marcus Williams looks like he's going to be the real deal. And Kenny Vaccaro, he's really developed into a solid, if not
a contract year for him this year.
Yes, exactly. So, and I think, I know you want to get into this, but, adding some pieces like an A.J. Klein, my goodness, I think that's going to be a huge addition for this team. And I see him a lot like a Jonathan Vilma. He's just a leader type of guy. He's very active, good in pass coverage. So I think they added some pieces that I think are going to be outstanding on defense. And it'll give Dennis Allen some more options on defense. And obviously with a healthy defensive backfield, that makes a whole lot of difference rather than plugging in guys off the street.
Rene, I'll stay with you. Ryan Ramczyk now signs today, coming off of a little bit of a surgery himself, hip surgery. Is he the left tackle now, or do they move Pete outside? Do they move another guard in? Is it Landon Turner? Is it Clemente filling in at guard? You were talking to us a little bit before we went on the air. It's not unprecedented to start a left tackle as a rookie in the NFL.
No, you wouldn't move Pete out there, I can tell you that. And you got Khalif Barnes. But I'm going to tell you, I'll throw some names out. And I'm not the sharpest guy. But, you know, I've noticed this. Donovan Smith, left tackle from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, started as a rookie. Matt Khalil started as a rookie with the Vikings, now with the Carolina Panthers. Joe Thomas with the Cleveland Browns started as a rookie at left tackle. Joe Staley started at right tackle for the Niners, moved over to left tackle his next year. My point being, it's not impossible to be a left tackle and a rookie starter in the NFL. You got to have the right makeup. And Ramczyk is pretty tough and he's pretty smart. And the thing is that he's going to get a lot of help from Zach Strief and Khalif Barnes to kind of school him along, and it's going to be up to him. It's kind of like freshmen playing for LSU baseball. It's going to be your time to shine. Can you do it? And he's played in the Big Ten, and he's done very, very well. He's got good size, good run blocker, and he's got a little nasty about him. So to say he's going to be out there and it's going to shake up and scare some fans, you know, let him see what he can do. And this is, if it's going to be an injury, this is the best time for Teron Armstead to go down, because if it happened at the end of practice in August, right before the season started, my goodness, what are you going to do? Well, now you got all the training camp to get Ramczyk ready and give him those preseason games and let him get out there. If he gets burned a little bit, work on the things and let him get in the film room and see what you need to get better with.
What'd you piggyback on
The
that?
number one thing that he has going for him is Drew Brees. Quarterback Drew Brees will make any offensive lineman a little bit better than he has. The good thing about it is, as Rene is saying, you do have some time. My number one thing is how healthy is he? If he's healthy, then yeah, you give him out there. I agree with him. We're finally getting to the point where Andres Pete is having back-to-back consecutive games where he's doing at left guard. Leave him there. Yeah, I don't think you mess with him. You mentioned Barnes, and I go back to the 9 games without Armstead last year, and Pete was a guard. So
Bryce Harrison, that makes as well.
Exactly right. So I think that's what you do. You maybe start that first training camp practice 5 weeks from today, and you have Khalif, you have Bryce Harris, you see what they do to where Ramczyk is the second string, and then in that first week, throw him in one of those team drills with the first unit, see how he handles it, see how he goes. The number one thing I'm going to see is how healthy is he. We get out there 5 weeks from today, and he's on the bike, or he's doing individual, he's not doing teams. That's going to make me think that he's not going to be ready. If he's healthy and he's going through a full practice, then he has a shot. Because look, I mean, again, his fault or not, right? But when you draft him at 32,
right,
when we've been told and the fans have been told and everyone's been told, the NFL's been told, oh, you know, Brandon Cooks has been traded to get a defensive person to help the defense, and you go left tackle.
Right. Well, blessing in disguise now.
It may be.
Right,
Yeah.
but that's my point, though. That's my point. If he's there,
Right.
sort of like Pete, well, then he better play. He better
Right.
be able to be
Sure.
good enough to play.
Well, and Rene, the pedigree coming from Wisconsin, what we heard about him in the draft is he is a ready-made left tackle. He just was going to be put on the right side because of an aging Zach Strief eventually trying to beat him out. But that's his natural position.
And, you know, scouts I talked to told me before the draft that this guy reminds them of a Joe Staley for the 49ers.
That's
I mean,
strong.
I'm saying if that happens, comes to fruition. But also something that Gus said about having Drew Brees. When you got Drew Brees in the huddle and you got Max Unger, who is a quarterback of that offensive line, and Zach Strief, they're going to make Ramczyk so much better because they can correct and practice the things that he did. Zach Strief can be the right tackle, yes, but he can show him and tell him things. Max Unger being a center, and also in Drew Brees. So those 3 guys are going to be like coaches on the field for him and kind of school him along.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And of course, hopefully Unger is able to go week 1. Josh Laribas is the guy right now. Right. And even though he's looked good in shorts and T-shirts, it all changes once they get into pads.
Yeah,
and of course, they're
and look,
playing
and
against other
Armstead
teams.
will be around and helping and,
Right.
and things of that nature. Just you feel for the guy who was so excited to be healthy.
let's talk about the replacement for Nick Fairley. As I've said since we found out about the heart ailment with Fairley was, Rankins was drafted to be Nick Fairley, and Fairley was kind of an anomaly. You didn't know what Fairley was going to do. You didn't know Fairley was going to play as well as he did last year and as dominant and disruptive as he was. With that said, he was rewarded the big contract because he deserved it. But this has been they drafted Sheldon Rankins to be Nick Fairley. And oh, by the way, David Onyemata now playing much more last year than maybe they thought he was. He gets a year under his belt. Those two guys obviously going to be a big part of this with Tyler Davidson with that rotation inside.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I was talking to Rene during practice, and you could see it, whether or not they were practicing as if Nick Fairley was going to be here or not, or just trying different formations. He mentioned Marcus Williams. We did, Larry and I, last time we were here as well. I get it. We haven't seen anything, not a real live drill or real live practice or game or preseason or anything. But your eyes don't lie. And every time you follow the football, there's 43 around the football. And he'll be the first one to tell you as an analyst, if you can have a safety that can play that single high safety, that cover one, go sideline to sideline, and you can trust to do that, all of a sudden, your corners are better because they can be a little more aggressive. Right. Your linebackers might be able to get to that football because that quarterback maybe holds on to that ball a little bit more, tries to place it a little bit more. Just having that one person at that position can sort of help you in a lot of different areas. And I think going back to, I know it's crazy to think of the defensive tackle position, how can the safety help him? Well, you can do other things with some safeties. We saw 3 safety looks where Von Bell and Kenny Vaccaro are at the line of scrimmage, basically where your outside linebacker would be. Now the quarterback's got to decide who's coming. Is it that guy on my right? Is he coming or both coming? Are they both dropping back? Just because down there I have a free safety that can cover all that. So that sort of alleviates the lack of that immediate pressure up front because I can use those safeties not only to blitz, run support, which is something that Kenny Vaccaro does very well. And I just, it's crazy to think, but the loss of Nick Fairley and how he gets handled, or that situation gets handled, may be on how good a safety for the Saints plays. And
also Cam Jordan, the ability to move inside, which means that you're going to have guys that can rush the passer. We know Okafor is one of those guys. Will one of those rookies step up and be the other outside rusher? Can Haloi Kakaha come back from his injuries? There are a lot of different formations they were trying in minicamp and OTAs in lieu of the loss of Nick Fairley.
Exactly, and you got Hendrickson as the rookie, and you got Mohammed out of Miami. Yes. But the thing is that something you want to do if you're in a war or a battle or something, you want to make the enemy think a little bit. And as you say, as Gus was saying, if you got some disguise there, or you want that quarterback to just guess for a second, can I do? What are they going to do? What can I get a pass here or whatever, or check off or whatever it may be? And that's, you want the opponent to think and start outguessing themselves. But Sheldon Rankins, he was hurt most of last year, and you really didn't see the whole, the real deal with him. And now I think you'll see the real deal. And is he another Aaron Donald? I don't know, but I mean, he can be exceptionally special. And Onyemata, that was somebody that you didn't expect, maybe a year or two in development, and he stepped up a lot sooner. So, and Tyler Davidson has done a great job at nose tackle, quietly performed very, very well, and he's solidified that position.
Guys, I want to ask you, because both of you have seen OTAs and minicamp, who has stuck out to you guys? Now look, we want to preface that. It's shorts, T-shirts, and helmets. But some players that maybe the fans haven't had a chance to see yet, they should look for when the Saints start training camp out on Airline Drive.
Just off the top of my head, like I said, Marcus Williams stood out to me just in that. I mean, look, if they start and it's a 2-safety look, it's going to be Von Bell and Kenny Vaccaro in there. If it's a 3-safety look, which they're going to do a lot this year with just 2 linebackers, it's going to be that. The thing also that stood out to me, and you were referencing what A.J. Klein sort of reminded you of, I'm hearing a lot of us types, right, going, man, if that Anzalone guy doesn't look like Scott Fujita.
Yes.
Just, I get the flowing hair and the size and stature. I think that's been the one surprise for me. I'm not being ugly or mean, but I didn't fall in love with him on that draft night and looking at the footage and trying to recall games against LSU.
That's why.
Exactly right. But he has size. He's every bit. Some guys, like I might say I'm 6 foot and you're like, Gus, you're 5'7". He's every bit 6'3", and he's got some size on him, and he hasn't had a full off season of the NFL with trainers and program, so he's going to get a little thicker and better, Mr. Arms over here. But that, what I'm talking about, that's going to help. If you can get anything out of Stephon Anthony, I mean, you're seeing him. he has athleticism. Does he know where the heck he's going? But he has athleticism. You saw it in practice in OTA. He can go sideline to sideline, two-hand touch to running back, get to make the play. That's something the Saints haven't had. So that's two linebackers I'm mentioning already. And Lattimore, when it comes to him, I was interested in how he bounced back. He had a terrible practice on Tuesday, day one of minicamp. So then what the staff does, they go, no problem. We're going to put you on Michael Thomas from the get-go. Every team drill from 7-on-7, they put him on Michael Thomas, not Delvin Breaux. It was him, and he wound up winning that Wednesday practice and frustrating Michael Thomas. I liked that. I liked how he bounced back and he took that challenge. So those are the things that really stood out to me. And on offense, it's real simple. I have no idea how Sean Payton's going to do it. I think Kamara, you got to get him the football. I think we saw him make a move on Manti Te'o. I get it, it's Manti Te'o, but a move is a move. He's quick. And if Peterson can stay healthy, I don't know how you get the ball to those different backs. And those are just some of the things that kind of stood out to me, but mainly mostly on defense.
Right. You know, guys, I question the depth at wide receiver position. I was talking a little bit about it today on the radio show, but Kamara helps that. You know, Kamara helps that and gives you another guy that catch the ball out the backfield, another weapon. You know, when you start looking at, who's going to be your top four receivers. Well, they got a guy that they haven't had in a while, a Bush Sproles type player, which again could augment that and maybe give you another weapon there. Who stood out to you, Rene?
First practice out of OTAs, it looked like the defensive players were running in sand against Ted Ginn Jr. I mean, he runs a 4-0 40. And the thing is, Brandon Cooks was fast, but this guy is fast too. I'd love to see those two guys race. But the thing is that's going to be a weapon if he can hold on to the ball and stay solid and not get hurt. But Alvin Kamara is going to be good. Peterson, you keep saying he's been around and stuff, but he's kept his body in great shape. 7% body fat or something crazy. But he's a young 32. He's a 32-year-old that plays like a 26 or 27-year-old. And he knows his role. And he don't have to get the ball, which is great. And the fact that people think he can't catch the ball, that was crazy. I've seen him catch the ball a lot at OTAs and minicamps.
He looked very smooth.
He's very smooth. He's got great hands and a good blocker, too. And you want a guy, as and Sean Payton talks about this all the time, you don't want a guy that just runs. You want to pick up on third down and a guy who's a good blocker and things like this. And both Ingram and Adrian Peterson are great blockers.
Guys, we'll shift gears to the Pelicans as this show is live tonight. It is NBA draft night. The Pelicans have 2 picks, 40 and 52. They acquired the 52nd pick in the draft, which is a second-round pick from the Washington Wizards for Tim Frazier and his $2 million contract. It's been thought that was a salary purge. The salary was projected to be around $102 million for the NBA. It is now going to be around $99 million, up from about $92 million. Not what they really thought it was going to be. And the Pelicans really don't have any cap room when you look at it. There's a lot of talk about Jrue Holiday wanting around $25 million, which would be a max deal for him. If they don't re-sign Holiday, they'll have about $14.5 million to spend, which is nothing in today's NBA. And it's going to be interesting to see how they maneuver the cap now with, again, some really, really dead weight on this team. As we mentioned on this show and the radio show. $10.2 million this year, $11.6 million next year for Marashik. Agenza, a little bit more movable with $11 million over the next 2 years. But this is where you really fall into trouble again. Overpaying for Solomon Hill a bit. $38 million over the next 3 years. Etuan Moore, $25 million over the next 3 years. Quincy Pondexter, $3.8 million next year. He hadn't played in forever. And of course, you're looking at $24 million a year and $17 million, $24 million a year for Anthony Davis, $17 million a year for DeMarcus Cousins. You are in a situation with a supermax player, Gus. You can't overpay guys that are coming off the bench, guys that are contributors to your lineup now. You have to be very frugal there. And the Pelicans now are in a situation because of the mismanagement of the cap, for some bad moves that were made by Dell Demps, that again, they're going to have to be incredibly creative to be able to, again, surround Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins with players to make this team successful this season.
2 things. One, my phone is not going off, which means they haven't traded Anthony Davis to Boston.
Yeah.
Have you seen that this week? It was absolutely
unbelievable, isn't it?
I mean, everyone up in the Northeast, well, let's go get Anthony Davis. What makes you think he's available? Like, look, I get it. Dell Demps has made some moves that make you go, he's made some that, wind up being well. That happens. It's somebody needs to go check somebody, whether or not they're sane or if there's money being made off of it. It's just, it's ridiculous. The second thing is, well, it's a good thing Golden State says good because you're not beating them regardless. Right. That's what I've been saying on my show. Yeah, look, you went through the numbers. It's depressing.
It's hard. It's really hard.
It's what I keep saying. I just want a plan. Just tell me what the plan is. And I use the analogy that we all, I think, can understand. And that's what we all do every day, and that's a budget, right? We want to buy a house or a car. Well, we need a budget. How do we come up with the money that we pay monthly and still maybe go out and have a little fun and things of that nature?
Sure.
So I think, but you have a plan. You have a 2, 3 year, 4 year. I think realistically, you try to show improvement this year. I hate to say this, realistically with the money you just said, you offer Drew Holiday a handsome contract, not a 5-year max, 2022, tops 24, 25.
Gosh.
I hear you, but a handsome deal. See if he takes it. It's up to him. He's going to come back here and play shooting guard, not point guard.
Right.
Okay? So if that happens, you're coming back next year with the same team you saw towards the end of the season. That said, they were competitive against the Rockets. That said, they won and could have won a lot of those games with the guy who, as you've seen just this week, guys, and DeMarcus Cousins looks like he's lost about 15 pounds.
Right.
What does that tell me? It tells me he's buying in. I hear you. It's a contract year and all that. Boogie wants his money. Pels can pay him more than everybody else.
Yes.
So don't worry about that. It means that Gentry's getting to him. And the guy wants to be coached. Players want to be coached. And I know a lot of fans are going, why Gentry stay? There's a reason why. I mean, and I've said this before in your show, do you want to risk bringing in a guy, bringing in a GM, doing that, and having this guy who's played with so many GMs, so many coaches, not by you, because it's not about AD right now. It's about him. If DeMarcus Cousins doesn't re-sign with the Pelicans, well, then now you're really in a rebuild mode. So you're bringing back essentially that team. Give me the budget. You tell the fans, let's try to be the 8th seed this year. 8, 7 seeds, just make the postseason. You're not beating Golden State to win the title. I get it. There are super teams trying to be built all around. So I understand it as a fan, right? I said, fine, no problem. Okay, next year, we are a playoff team, and now we want to be a second-round team for sure. Great. Year 3, now we have some cap relief. You mentioned 2 of those players on their 3rd year. We can move them in 2 years because it's an expiring contract. Well, year 3, we're going to make a run for the conference finals. I don't know if I can win it or not, but by then Klay Thompson may have gone and tried to do something else. And who knows the balance of power from that standpoint. So give me a plan. Tell me what it is. Even the Sixers, we made fun of them for years. Trust the process. Okay, now we're seeing the fruits of their labor. But still, give me a plan. Tell us the plan. Make sure it's the plan. Don't go and spend frugally, like you're saying, and make bad contracts. Hill, Etuan Moore, you got to get rid of him somehow, some way. Ashley, you got to get rid of him somehow, some way over the next 2-3 years. Then you can be a contender. But you say that. And more importantly, don't tell me. Tell AD, tell Boogie, this is my plan. This is what we're doing. Here's the flow chart. You're going to have your shot in 3 to 5 years.
And believe me, guys, the clock is ticking because, again, Anthony Davis has a player option in 2020. And that's what you're looking at.
There you go.
You're looking, this is a 3-year deal.
Yes.
And that's why, again, I did question this organization in keeping Dell Demps here, the guy that created the mess that we're in right now, because ultimately if he doesn't get it done, well, you're delaying the process 1 more year, and then you have 2 years with a new GM and maybe a new coach to come change things. 866-3200 if you'd like to get involved in tonight's show. What are your thoughts on the Pelicans, Rene?
Well, the thing is, and we talked about this off the air, the model NBA team right now is the Golden State Warriors. Right. And you just can't throw a collection of #1 draft choice at the wall and see who sticks. The Warriors have 6 players, 4 of which were second-round draft choices. Yeah, I know Draymond Green was one of them, but you got 2 free agents, undrafted free agents. So you got 6 guys. You got a little less than half the roster are made up of guys, second-round draft choice. Some people think it's a throwaway, or a couple of free agents. But they have a good chemistry, and they got the right type of players. And I'm not sure if the Pelicans have the right type of players that all mesh and get along well. You just can't say a first-round draft choice, throw them in there and stuff. I just don't think that there's a good chemistry as far as ability and skills and things like that. And I hate to see Tim Frazier go. I really do. I thought he was a very productive player.
Very productive.
Yep.
And it's a salary dump is what it is.
Yes.
$2 million. And that tells you how cap-strapped they are when you got to dump him for $2 million to get a second-round pick. Maybe you utilize that second-round pick for another player. Maybe you take that draft choice. But you lost a player that you know can play in the NBA, and you only paying him $2 million.
And I'll tell you something, and you may think I'm crazy, because I know both of y'all, and you think I am. But Isaiah Thomas is not a big guy.
Right.
And if I was drafting and he fell in my lap, I'd draft Frank Mason, the Pelicans, out of Kansas. Over 20-point average per game, solid player. He over 5 assists a game. He gets everybody involved. So if Frank Mason from Kansas falls to the Pelicans in 40, grab him, because he could be a point guard very much like Isaiah Thomas.
40 and 52, the 2 picks that the Pels have. And for the life of me, I go on the air and there's 60 players. International basketball. I mean, basketball, would you agree, other than soccer, is probably the biggest world sport?
Absolutely.
How can you not find 60 players? I mean, it's nuts. You will hear analysts say, past 13, I don't know if they're even going to be a star or they're going to be able to make it. How in the NFL can you find players in the 7th round to work for your football team and make it, but in the NBA you can't get 60? I mean, it's nuts. I don't understand it. I've had people try to explain it to me, but I remember from Byron Scott to Alvin Gentry to you name it, will tell me, really, after 7, every draft.
But this
you don't know what you got. I'm like, how is that possible?
This team's never had the history of patience with rookies.
No, they haven't. They haven't had coaches that wanted to do it.
They want to do the shortcut. Yeah. And again, that hurts them. And it hurts you in the salary. You mentioned Golden State.
Right.
Those second-round picks don't cost you a lot.
Right.
And when you're adding guys like Kevin Durant, and you've got guys that are going on their second contracts, like some of the guys that they've drafted now that are going to look. Those second-round picks are very valuable if you can come in and get some good solid playing time out of them.
And the thing is, I'm drawing a blank right now, but Milwaukee got the Rookie of the Year at pick number 36 last year. So, if you're patient and you know what you're looking for, you can get a good goal.
Yeah, and to his point quickly, Eric, my point is with him is when you look at Golden State, it's real easy to say, look at that fab foursome that they have and everything. But when they go to their bench, you talked about McCaw and you talk about some of the other guys they have, their lead either grows or it stays the same. It doesn't hurt you. At 40 or 52 or whatever, if they keep them or don't package them to do something else, just pick somebody that does something really good or well
give me
at
a shooter,
that thing.
Or give me a point
guard. Give me some size.
Right.
Give me a defender. Give me a guy that plays well in the low post. Give me a guy that handles the ball. Just pick one. Just pick a player that does something well that can give you 6. I mean, David West, and I'm not talking about but where he is now. He was coming off the bench for Golden State, giving you 6 minutes, 6 to 10 minutes. Right. Find somebody that can give me something productive rather than acting and treating it like some throwaway waste of time. Well, I guess I have to be here. Give me a slice of pizza. Oh, darn, we're up. Pick so-and-so.
Right.
Pick somebody. There's a kid, Morris, out of Iowa State. I wouldn't mind him. The number one thing you see out of everybody is floor general. We need point guards. Just find somebody that does something that can give me something to where I'm not going, he's not even making the roster.
Right.
It's your job. You've had weeks, you've had months. Find 2 players or find one guy.
Well, and look, again, on the flip side of that is when you get in that second round, you're going to probably get upperclassmen. And you're going to get 3- and 4-year players. And again, those guys should be NBA ready.
Right.
You're taking a chance on the young guys with the early picks. But again, that means those upperclassmen fall to you in the second round. And you could have a guy that could be NBA ready. Let's head to the phone lines. Hal joins us. He called us at 866-3200. Hey, Hal, welcome to the show.
Hey, you guys. I have 2 things about LSU baseball. One is with Monday night's loss to Oregon State. After the game, I heard an interview with Coach Maneri and with one of the players, and both of them were saying that when Walker had to leave the game, it sucked the life out of the team. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, they're playing the number 1 team in the country. What does that say about team discipline to have one event like that suck the life out of the team? And the second thing about LSU baseball is if all the pitches are coming from the dugout, in essence, he's calling all the plays for the offense, and I don't know enough to know if the pitches that are being called really make sense. I wonder if you all have an opinion about that. Okay. How does that look to you?
Okay, thank you, Hal. we'll talk about Walker, and then we'll morph into again when you get to the college level, the coach is going to call the pitches. He's going to call the at bat on what they're going to do. I mean, that's not unusual.
No, it's not, and I think it just comes to a point of leadership here as well. A lot of times, if you have very special pitchers, very special catchers, LSU's had that in the past, where they'll let them kind of have an instance in a game plan. But even in the Bertman era, Skip was making those calls too. So it's something that you see a lot of. As far as Walker goes, look, I'm sort of with the caller to an extent. I don't know. I would hope that a freshman pitcher wouldn't determine whether or not I win the College World Series or not. But again, it goes to the overall confidence of that team and when they're doing. If Kramer is doing well and some of these other guys are having good at-bats, and I get it was only the second game, but I just think the overall confidence of the team and leadership of the team, it's a way to pick it up. I get being deflated. I think it absolutely stinks. But look, we see this all the time in adversity. How are you going to react to it? Either are you going to step up or are you going to let it defeat you? And unfortunately, in that game, they let it defeat them. You could just see it on the field. They weren't ready. Mental errors, mistakes. They picked it up a little bit later, and you saw it. It's a different team when you have confidence. So it is a very frail baseball team from that standpoint, confidence-wise.
Rene?
I would say losing Walker, and I wouldn't dispute that. He may have said it's, devastating or anything. But I would look at it in a way that you're running a 6-mile race, and the first couple of blocks, you tweak your ankle. You're going to have to finish the race one way or the other. You have to suck up the pain and stuff. You're going to have to suck up what he contributes there. And Alan Dunn calls the pitches. And if Eric Walker's not there, it's next man up. And they have good leadership on his team, and not only, as I talked about earlier, not only with the seniors, with Kramer, Kramer Robertson and Cole Freeman, you got some freshmen that have become leaders on his team. So you got great leadership, great chemistry, and I can't say I could blame losing Eric Walker if for some reason LSU does not succeed. That is not the sole reason. Oregon State's a better team, and that's what happens. But they can beat this team with or without Eric Walker.
Let's see if we can grab this call. Brian is in Metairie. Hey, Brian, we've got about a minute. Your thoughts? Okay, Brian is gone.
Quickly, I just wanted to say,
ahead,
I don't care who the Pelicans get. I think they fumbled the ball when they kept Dempsey Gentry. He hasn't done nothing since he's gotten here hardly. A couple of lucky things to save his job. But personally, I think they really should have got rid of him and Gentry. And I think as long as you got them, what you had last year is what you're going to have. I'll wait and listen for your opinion.
Thank you, Brian. I got about 15 seconds each, guys.
Well, like I said, I think you're going to see a team closely more resemble the team you saw after the DeMarcus Cousins trade. It was a competitive team. It was that. Again, a lot of it decides who's your point guard. What's Drew Holiday? If this team doesn't get Drew Holiday back, it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens.
And they just can't get it to the number 8 seed or 7 seed. They got to somehow make a big splash. And if they don't make a big splash, I don't know how they're going to get it, but they better make a big splash before next year because they also have to put fannies in the seat and put some W's up there.
More importantly, what will it take for Boogie Cousins to resign?
No doubt. Well, I think he's going to come back because of the money. I don't think he walks away from again, another big contract after he lost that money with Sacramento. Gus Kattengell, Rene Nadeau, thanks for being with us tonight on Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night at 10 p.m. on WLAE-TV. Also on Pelican Sports Television, that's 9 o'clock every Friday night. And 2 chances to catch us on the Cox Cable tier on Thursdays at 10 and 2 a.m. on Saturday mornings. Catch me on the radio, 9:90 a.m. WGSO. That's weekdays, 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. You can listen live, download the podcast at ericasher.com. All the previous episodes of Inside New Orleans Sports can be seen at ericasher.com as well. Don't forget about that TuneIn radio app. It's a great way to download the show, and you can take it anywhere with you as well. Also, again, as always, want to thank our guests, Gus Kattengell and Rene Nadeau, and also the WLE production staff. My good friend and director William Hill is off tonight, but again, an admirable job tonight by Naila Jones directing the program. Also Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, also Kenny Juneau, and Krista Smith. So again, thanks to those guys for behind the scenes, and thank you for watching Inside New Orleans Sports. We'll catch you next week for another edition. Have a great week.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.